Welcome to our show, Building the World We Want. My name is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks.
Hello, I'm James Bennett, otherwise known as Sweet Baby James.
And we have a really interesting show for you tonight, I hope. Uh, and I'm going to tell you what the topic is. Uh, it's in the blurb. Some of you read it, some of you don't. The headline, I need a break. Yeah. Has your sense of safety been shattered and what to do about it? And I say, regardless of your age, race, gender, or even political affiliation, you are bound to feel the anxiety in our nation. Between ICE, the Epstein files, the economic uncertainty, and more, it's hard to feel safe in our world anymore. How does that impact us on a day to day basis? How can we shift into a more relaxed inner space without taking drugs or going to La La Land? Join us for an honest conversation. And that's what we're going to be having tonight is hopefully an honest conversation. Speaking of the word honest, right? Isn't that so much of what shatters our sense of safety is when people are dishonest. Okay? That camera was dishonest. It moved all by itself without me asking it to. So, can anybody out there identify with the feeling of not feeling safe? We
Yes.
have Todd says, Hi, Beth and James. Great topic. Thank you. You get it, Todd. And like I said, with people are scared of ICE. People who are white are now getting scared of ICE. They will do, oh, Elizabeth says, yes, I identify. Oh, cool. Oh, cool. So this is a big topic for a lot of us. And so many of us don't even realize that we are being impacted by what's happening in our world. And we just feel more anxious than usual. Or, oh, Amy says, I do too. Great. So thank you for sharing. We appreciate that. Um, so I wanted to get into a little bit of the depth of how our safety is shattered and why we're having the reactions that we're having and what we can do about it. So there's a lot to this topic, and I'll try to go through it in some kind of systematic way if I can. Um, so I was just mentioning that people are scared of ICE. Even if you're white, you can see that you can, even if you're a citizen, you can be arrested, you can be shot, and terrible things. You can be incarcerated. But there's more. What about those Epstein files? Haven't we discovered that not only crazy conspiracy theorists now believe that there was a group of very powerful people who did heinous crimes and covered it up. And with the cooperation of the FBI cover up, many uh, uh, administrations covered it up. Certainly, our current president is up to his eyeballs in it, is covering it up, along with a lot of wealthy people. Now, did you ever think about that? Did you ever think, oh my God, the country is being run by a handful of pedophiles who get away with murder? Most of us wouldn't have believed it. And that's the beauty of the Epstein files, is that now everybody sees that this kind of thing does happen. And it's not just in this country, but it's international. So doesn't that shatter your sense of safety as well as ICE roaming the streets? That you also have an administration that goes after its political enemies. If you're a Democrat, oh my God, you're living in a Democratic city, you can have the troops sent in. Does that shatter your sense of safety? And there's more. It goes on. And I talked about it in economic insecurity too. So all these things are happening. We are having a lot of revelations. We have to face these realities, and it's very scary. But now let's talk about that fear. Do you believe that that fear only comes from what's happening in our nation today? No, I don't.
No, I'm perfectly capable of being anxious over just about anything.
That's right. Well said, James. Well said. And why is that? Now, let's look at our own personal history. And this is where I want to start, is on how we are being triggered to be more fearful by these terrible things that are happening, but that the seeds of our lack of safety go way back for most of us. So for me, a lot of it came from me being a political, social activist in the 60s and 70s and having the FBI rifle through my garbage and being arrested unjustly several times, handcuffed, manhandled, accused of intimidating the police officers. Which was absurd, and all kinds of bogus stuff. So I have had this kind of experience before. So this could trigger, like, oh, yeah, I've been here before. But there's another level on which we have been here before. Let's say we have discovered that our father or our mother or our grandparents were cheating on their partners, or maybe both of them were cheating on each other. We buy the story, marriage is forever and until death do us part and love and all of that. And then you discover that you're, somebody very close to you in your own family wasn't the paragon of virtue that they pretended to be. Now, whether they should have been or not, I'm not judging. What I am saying is look at the lack of safety that you experienced when you discovered that things were not the way you thought they were supposed to be. Even when you discovered that there was no Santa Claus or there was no tooth fairy, you had been fooled. Or you had an older sibling who fooled you all the time. That was me, right? There is a lot of ways in which I was fooled, cheated, betrayed as a child. And I have even had someone very close to me, my own family, cheat me out of inheritance, which I would have thought would never happen. So sometimes people lie to us or they hide things from us unwittingly because they are ignorant. Your mother will say, eat this and it's good for you. Well, it turns out that it isn't good for you, or do this and it's good for you. And then you discover years later that you did all these things that actually hurt you. And you were just following advice. You were following the directions. Well, maybe they were just ignorant. But sometimes people have hidden agendas, right? I want you to believe something or to do something because I want to take advantage of you. And that happens a lot. And we don't want to believe that they're going to do this because we come in like, oh yeah, of course, I believe you. You're my brother, my nana, you're, whatever. So we've all had that kind of experience. So sometimes it's ignorance. Sometimes there's a hidden agenda. Another reason that people do things to us that that create a lack of safety for us in the world is just simple corruption. They want something and they will do just about anything to get it. Don't we live in a world where that happens all the time? Aren't we even encouraged to climb the ladder of success no matter what it takes, to step on the people below us, to abandon responsibilities in order to run off to Tahiti to, have a permanent vacation in life or whatever? A lot of times it's pure corruption. that the person wants something from you or from people associated with you, and they don't want you to realize this. They want you to buy that bridge in Brooklyn. A lot of people are hiding things because they don't want the consequences of being seen. Oh, I don't want, it's harmless. I just run a little business on the side, and I don't report it on my taxes. But see, that's not cheating. No, I mean, that's everybody does that, right? So the idea that everybody does it and that somehow if it's small time, it's okay and there's no consequences. And no, there's no consequences to anything, right? So take a moment. I don't want to go offline too long. Just take a moment and think about your own childhood where you were fooled, where you were betrayed, where you discovered there was something fishy about one of your relatives or two of your relatives, or you discovered that you were molested by somebody that you trusted, or that, so think about it. Don't you think that your sense of safety was shattered by those realizations? Maybe you didn't even know it or talk about it or think about it, but it already happened because, on the one hand, you think everybody is honest, and then you find out they're not. Now, one of the ways in which we cooperate and collaborate with this is we want to believe them. And why do we want to believe them? Sometimes because we want something from them. So, we go along with what a parent does, or a boyfriend does, or our best friend does, or somebody else, somebody from the neighborhood does. We go along with it because we want something from them. And if we go along with them, we're going to get it back, right? So we believe because we want to believe, or because we need affection, and that person takes care of us or shows us some affection, and nobody else does. And so, yeah, I want to believe that. We do so many things that go against the grain. Yeah, I gave a blowjob to this guy in the neighborhood because, after all, he paid attention to me. He gave me candy. He took me for soda pop. We participate in being fooled. We want to be fooled. How else do you explain how so many people in the United States? So now let's take a look at another side of this. I hope you're identifying, guys. What about you? Did you ever cheat on a test when you were a kid? Some of us didn't because we couldn't see well enough to see what was on their paper. Some of us didn't know how to cheat. Some of us were so arrogant that we didn't believe that we needed to cheat. We thought we were like the smartest thing that rolled down the block. How many of us have done little cheats on our taxes? Or pushed the meaning of something a little bit. Yeah, of course, that's a tax deduction because blankety 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 blank. Some of us have pretended to agree with someone in order to get them to like us, or to leave us an inheritance, or to not beat us up. Yeah, some of us are afraid of being honest. Some of us just learned to manipulate because we felt so powerless. There wasn't any other way. And some of us just believed that's the game. I want to give you an example of this. When I lived in New York, which was like, oh, 60 years ago, right? I lived in a neighborhood that was heavily mafia. And the person who came out of the woodworks to help me was in the mafia. And I didn't know. I didn't know anything. But then I started seeing odd things, like the guy would show up with a new car every day and a different car, and I thought, what is going on here? But he and his friends helped me. We didn't there was no sex involved. They just helped me. They felt sorry for me. And they would send over their friends to help me with my dilapidated house, which was not being fixed because the landlord was a completely corrupt crook. And one of the funniest stories about that time is I didn't have a heater that worked in this apartment. And I called up the health department and I said, I don't have heat. And they said, well, do you have bars on your windows? I said, of course I have bars on my windows. You don't live in a neighborhood like this and you don't have bars on your windows. God knows what come. He said, well, if we come and we discover there's bars on the windows, you're going to be evicted because they won't allow that to pass. You won't be allowed to live there. So guess what I did? I shut up. I felt like I had to go along. So what I was going to say about the mafia was I met a lot of young men. That's all I met. I'm not saying there weren't women in it, but I met a lot of young men who didn't know how to make money, who couldn't see their way out of the tenement buildings, and they ran numbers. It wasn't that they were like, oh, the kind of guys that you see in all those movies about the mafia. No, I mean, these were just regular guys like you and me who didn't have a way of making money. So that when you see that that is the game, so that showed me how many people play the game because that's all they see as being the way to survive in an environment. And it's the same thing. If you're working in a company where people are turned against each other, where people are encouraged to compete with each other, you're probably going to find a way to compete in order to win. So look at this. All of a sudden, I'm looking at myself. Yeah, maybe I cheated in some small way or a big way. Uh, Maybe I lied about something, that I just a white lie, right? Sometimes I pretended in order to I pretended that I was interested in going out with a guy so that he'd buy me dinner because I was starving. I was very poor. Sometimes we just get manipulative because that's what we learned in our families. Yes, this is how you get what you need is by manipulating. And sometimes we played along because that was the game. So now, what are we seeing from my brief overview? From childhood, we saw people lying, cheating, going behind other people's backs, pretending, manipulating, and to some degree, large or small, we have done the same. In fact, aren't we told to give little white lies like, tell your mother she looks beautiful in that hideous dress, right? Because she's going to like it. So now, what do we do about it? And I would really like people to give their comments. If you're on Facebook, you must be on the public Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Granny Rocks On. If you're on a page that says Beth Green, you're not on my public page, and I will not see your comment if you're writing. But anyone else on the public Facebook page or on YouTube, I know you're out there. You can put in comments about how you may have been shocked or betrayed, how you may have gone along with things in order to manipulate, how you also don't even trust yourself. See, now I've been talking about lying and cheating, and how does that impact our sense of safety? Well, because we don't know what to believe. We don't know what to trust. We don't know who to trust. Here, the guy who is so sweet to me, the next thing I know is he's snapping my bra, and I'm 12 years old. And this happened to me all the time. And so whether it's in the family or outside the family or in the neighborhood, and then of course you get to watch this on TV and movies. So we've seen people not being trustworthy, not being totally honest. And we've done, for some reason, we keep losing our connection, but I hope that it's that you haven't lost us. So, how do we start to have a sense of safety in a world where we have had personal experience? We have been traumatized by people's duplicity, their unwillingness to be honest and take the consequences of being honest. We've all seen that. And where we ourselves have participated in small ways or large ways, how the hell are we going to feel safe now when you can't trust anything? Oh, good. Elizabeth said, we still see you. Oh my God. Thank you, Elizabeth. I really appreciate your telling me that. I don't know why the internet is so flaky. I have a hardwired connection. They don't like me saying this. So when you're scared of the cops or of ICE or your economic, how many of us didn't have economic uncertainty growing up? Maybe you didn't, but lots of us did. When you have people like that, it seems true that there's a handful of people who run the world, who run the economy, who self-serve, who take care of number one. Didn't we learn dog eat dog, take care of number one? Isn't that taught to us in a strange way? And so then when we have these things actually happening in our world, and for some of us, we saw a parent going to prison for something that they did, um, or one of our parents being beaten by one of our other parents. How safe did we feel before? Many of us think we felt safe before, but if we think back on it, we didn't. Where did all that anxiety come from? Why are so many people taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications? And so what's happening in our world now? Oh, Paula said, Granny, you rock. Paula, I love it. It's so rare to see a comment from you live. And I so appreciate you saying that, because I'm going to tell you something, being completely transparent. I got this topic this morning. I wrote it up, for the show, and I couldn't think of anything I was going to say about it. I mean, absolutely nothing. James will tell you at dinner tonight, I said, I don't know what I'm going to say. I have no idea. And I thought, I know I have something to say, but I can't think of what it is. I felt so blocked, because these are things we don't want to look at, do we?
So how did it open up for you tonight?
I don't know.
You opened your mouth and something came to you.
No, I actually, a few minutes before I wrote down some notes, I started thinking about, well, what was our lives before? I started thinking it through, and these ideas came to me, and it became very obvious. So the first thing we need to do to change the world, to build the world we want, is to get gut-wrenchingly honest with ourselves. Now, that is the hardest thing to do. I will lie about my motivations without even knowing it. Oh, yeah, I did that because I did it for you. I didn't do it for you. I did it for me. I did it because I wanted to look like a good person. That's how I did it for me. Or I did it because I want something back from you, or I want your love, or because I was taught that that's the way you're supposed to be, or I have some ulterior motive. So here it is, something as simple as that. How many times have I lied even to myself? And then suddenly I get confronted by something and I say, oh my God, they're right. If I let myself go there. And so, how many of us are ready to do that, make that commitment to stop lying to ourselves and to stop lying to other people and stop trying to manipulate the boss, trying to manipulate the landlord, trying to manipulate the husband? That's really important because the husband, I need him. I need his physical strength because, I'm a butterfly. I can't do anything. I mean, manipulating men. Are you serious? I would love to do a show about that where we get honest about women manipulating men. So, supposing we start to change or to do something about it by starting with ourselves and coming to trust ourselves more because we are more trustworthy. Do you get what I mean? When I am trustworthy, I do trust myself more. Now, sometimes somebody is questioning me and I'm perfectly innocent, but I still have to look at it and make sure that it's true. The next thing that I think we can do is to look around us and find the people that we do trust and trust them even though they are not 100% trustworthy. Do you fundamentally trust this person? And start building a world of people that you fundamentally trust. It doesn't mean that everything they do is going to be 100% because we're human and we are flawed and we are so full of shit.
The official diagnosis.
The official diagnosis, FOS. But, fundamentally, do I trust this person? And then start trusting them. Don't look for the ways that they're fooling you or that they're, how many people have said, I'm going to do this, and they don't do it. They don't do it. You're yawning on me again. You did that to me last week. I don't know what this means. Despite the fact that he's yawning, I fundamentally trust James. I don't mean that I don't think he will ever hurt me or that he won't compete with me or that he won't yawn when I'm talking, but I do fundamentally trust James. And so we start looking around and we start picking out the people and we start surrounding us with people that we trust. And then we can say about other people, let's see, then there's another layer. These are people I trust to a degree. And why only to a degree? Because I know that they feel weak and they feel like they've got to compete or they're they're defensive or they're scared. And, so I have to use my common sense. So I want to trust some layer of people. I want to realize that people will hurt me and I will hurt them and still trust them. And other people I will only trust to a degree. I don't have to buy into it. And that's the beginning of creating a world where we start rebuilding our sense of safety because, I don't confront ICE every day. In fact, I haven't actually had the occasion. And some people are living in terror because they're brown, and I don't happen to have that. But I am in terror because I am fragile. If somebody lays a hand on me, I'm dead because my bones are so fragile. And because I have a history of being physically abused. right? But I want to let go of the history. I want to look at the reality. I want to ask myself, okay, what are the real dangers that I'm facing? How can I cope with them? And who can I trust? And, you see it, and I'm going to kind of end with this point, I think. You could see it in Minneapolis, where people came together to support one another and were following ICE around and alerting one another. People are also beautiful. Not everybody has broken your heart. Don't pick on the things that are scary and blow them out of proportion. Be honest with yourself about what's really happening in your world. And if you possibly can, clean up the fears from the past. So please come tomorrow night. We're going to do the music for our times. James and I are he's going to sing. I'm going to play the piano, and we're doing music that is related to how we're all feeling today and, giving us courage and supporting one another. And so that's every Thursday at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific time on these stations, and come back next week for building the world we want. That's at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time every Wednesday. And I want to thank you so much. Please like and love the show, or give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, click the notification button, follow us on Facebook, the routine. Do all those things, because believe me, it does make a difference in terms of who's going to see this, and share this program with anybody that you think could use it. So I haven't really left any time for anyone else to say anything. Is there something you'd like to say to close, James?
No, I just identify with the highlighting of the background, the childhood background of abuse, and things happening, coming up that you never suspect would happen or did happen, and the deceit, but mainly the emotional and physical abuse.
Speak a little louder, James.
Yeah, mainly the emotional and physical abuse causing me to carry a certain fear and mistrust.
Right. And so every time you read something, on the internet, you get, "Ah!" Right? Because it re-triggers that. And because of that, we tend to believe all the crap on the internet that isn't true. So make sure you're checking your sources. Don't be fooled by some AI, Meryl Streep getting on there selling vitamins. Don't believe the things, everything out of the box. Have a sense of a critical sense. Don't believe things just because people agree with you and they're on the same page. See, that is so corrupt for us just to believe things because we're hearing what we want to hear. So, and try to do the healing of the emotional trauma that causes us to be so scared to begin with. So thanks for your share. Thanks everybody for coming and for your comments and for all the support that you give us all the time. And with that, I am going to wish you a good night, and hopefully the music will start. Here we go.